My name is Heather Miller, and I'm an enrolled citizen of the Wyandotte Nation from Oklahoma. It is my pleasure to have you join us for our 67th annual powwow, held virtually this year. For those of you who don't know, a powwow is a Native American gathering where we celebrate our culture and our heritage through dance and drumming and just being together. Some folks call this a big, ginormous family gathering where we come and we see our relatives and we have time to remember how great it is to see one another, to be in conversation with one another, and truly celebrate what makes it special to be a Native American. We hope that through this video you learn more about the dances that you're going to see over the weekend. We hope you learn more about the history of the American Indian Center and our presence as Native people here in the city of Chicago. And we hope that once we reopen, you'll spend time visiting us at our center and learning even more about our amazing community. The American Indian Center is one of the oldest urban Indian centers in the country. We were founded in the early 50s. One of the things that was happening in this country during that time was a federal law called relocation. Basically, the federal government found another way to remove Indians and to make sure that we were not practicing our culture and heritage. And so they moved us off reservations, moved us into cities, and told us that we'd find lots of jobs. That wasn't necessarily the case, and being here in Chicago, many Indians came to the city looking for jobs, but they couldn't find them. So the Indian Center was born as a way to help support our community. We were providing resources, we were providing opportunities, and just getting folks connected and able to survive in a brand new place that was very foreign to them. Since that time, we have focused on serving the Native American community here in Chicago. Many folks don't know this, but here in Chicago, we're the 6th largest urban Indian community. We serve about 65,000 Native Americans in the city, and at the center, we have about 100 different tribal nations that participate in our programs. Today, we provide programming based around our values as Native people. We do a lot of arts programming, we do education programming, we bring the community together when we're not in a pandemic, through cultural gatherings, through community feasts, and through powwows, just like what we're going to see online this weekend. This event wouldn't be possible without support from great funders like Arts Midwest, National Endowment for the Arts, and the Illinois Arts Council. We invite you to have a great time at our powwow this weekend. And if you enjoy what you see, make sure that you check us out on social media. Take a look at what other programs we're doing on our website. And if you're so inspired, make a donation to continue to support our work. Once again, thank you so much for coming and have a great powwow, everyone.
Hi everyone, my name is Shantae Moore. I am the American Indian Center of Chicago's board president. I am an enrolled member of the Navajo Nation and also African American. So I'm here to share about the competition rules for our 67th Chicago Annual Virtual Powwow that we are hosting this year. So first, for each category, you can only have one submission. You can upload your video to the Chicago Annual Powwow Facebook page. You must supply your own music. No specific music is required. There will be a half-an-hour time slot for you to submit your video, and you will see the schedule on our website and Facebook page. Also, our website and Facebook page will have the hashtags that you must use for your submission. If you don't use the hashtag properly, we probably won't be able to see your video. The winners will be determined by the amount of likes or reactions that the original post receives. And you will have 24 hours to get as many likes as you can. And after the 24 hours, everything will be completely tallied and the winners will be announced. So please do not be afraid to reach out with any questions, and remember to make sure you share your video with all your family and friends. Good luck.
To me, powwow means gathering of your family and friends to enjoy each other's company, each other's culture, to really just come together, I guess, and respect one another and celebrate each other's culture together as one.
Well, I think the role of MC is to do the job that you're hired for, to run the program. I mean, I've been around powwows all my life. I grew up on the Flathead Indian Reservation, used to dance, and my grandma, Catherine, would take me to different powwows all over the Northwest. And, but she was a big stick game player, but she didn't really get involved in a powwow part of the powwows, the dancing part of the powwow. She was more of a stick game player, which is a big gambling game in the Northwest. And she would go to all the powwows and play stick game, but Dad made me a dance outfit and I danced. I used to listen to MCs and just follow orders. So I think that was what the MC role is, to not basically give orders, but to let everybody know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. And because without that, the master of ceremonies, it would be like total chaos. Nobody'd know what to do, because it's all got to be like a schedule, a tight schedule. If you only got sometimes 3 days, sometimes 2 days, sometimes 1 day, and you got to fit all the dancing categories into those 3 days, or 2 days, or 1 day, and you got to give time for the judges to judge, and the veterans to come in with their flags and things, and there's always specials, requests for specials, and if everybody wants to do a special, and if you ain't got time, you've got to say, as a master of ceremonies, you got to let the people know exactly what we can do and what we can't do. No, we haven't got time to do that right now. Maybe we can fit it in later, or it's a pretty big job. I mean, you get so brain tired after you're done on a weekend. You don't do nothing but sit on your butt all day, but there's a lot of thinking process goes into being an MC, and you're constantly working your mind, everybody hollering at you, Leonard, do this, Leonard, do that, and it's a lot of responsibility, a big responsibility, being a master of ceremonies.
Powwow really means community and family. It's just a wonderful gathering for everybody to get together and celebrate our culture.
When I got here, I met a few people, and one of them was a veteran. So we got to know each other really well, and he started asking me to help him out at the American Indian Center on veterans duties, helping him escort the Eagle staff and the flags into the gymnasium powwows, community powwows, and after a few years went by, then I was asked to help with the annual powwow, and it just kind of grew more involved from there, and here we are, 20-some years later, and I was asked to be the lead veteran for this period of time, and so I've been in this role for a while now, a little over a year, I think, maybe 2 years now. And, what we do is we help with the openings of special events, powwows especially. We bring in the Eagle staff. We handle the Eagle feathers. We escort the flags, grand entry, and at also when the powwow is closing and such. But we do a lot more than that too. We help with community needs where eagle feathers are asked for. So if someone has a special prayer need, or even if it's a non-Indian Center event, they can ask the Indian Center for the Eagle staff, and then they'll let us know, and we'll either bring it or bring an eagle feather to represent the staff, and be there for those needs. Like the powwows, the Eagle staff has a different meaning for my culture than it does in the Midwest. In the Midwest culture, eagle feathers have been used by all the Native American nations across this continent, including mine. But we just had different styles of their purposes, and we have not only eagle feathers but other birds that we utilize for prayer feathers, and where we plant our prayer sticks and things like that. But the eagle staff has always represented the spirit of the Creator here among the people, and it's an act of faith, really. You know, when people get together and they use something to for their prayers and blessings and things like that. And the eagle staff is one of the most powerful items of faith that Native American people have, and here in the Midwest and in a lot of other cultures, this eagle staff would lead the people into different parts of the country when they traveled. It led them into when they had to deal with conflicts and special events, and meeting certain people, maybe meeting the leaders of different nations, different tribes, things like that. Eagle staff would be present, and it's one of those items that Native people have trust in and belief in, and it symbolizes that faith in the Creator and the prayers. It's now in mainstream, it's kind of boiled down to where veterans and or Native American people who are enrolled in tribes can be the only people who possess eagle feathers and stuff like that. But as Native people, we've always used these items, and the eagle staff, although it for a lot of nations represents more one thing than the other. Some people might say it's community. Of course, it's always going to be community. And some people might say first is it represents warriors and veterans. And others might say, well, it represents leadership, and you don't have to be a veteran to be a warrior. But it encompasses all of that, all of those things, and it's a wonderful thing. And during Grand Entry, when we're carrying it in and stuff, if I happen to be holding the eagle staff for that particular event, then I like to look at what people are looking at. And they're looking at that eagle staff. They're looking at the flags and the eagle staff, and they're listening to the music, and everyone's standing, and it's just this huge moment of pride and solidarity and just hopefulness, you know, and just it's really cool. That's the bottom line is that it's cool.
Women fancy shawl dancers, a fancy shawl. This dance is a more contemporary dance. It's been around probably about as long as I have, maybe 80 or 90 years. It started down in the Oklahoma Indian Territories at Haskell Indian Junior College. It used to be a junior college. Now it's a Indian University, Haskell Indian University. but it used to be a junior college. So it started out in this dance, Fancy Shawls, started back in the maybe 30s or maybe early 30s. Came about when we started competing in dances. We started our dance competitions, and women started getting fancier and fancier in their dance steps, and the women traditional were nice. You should come up with your own category for that, and they did they made these beautiful fancy shawls, all color coordinated, beaded moccasins, leggings, earrings, chokers, everything was color coordinated. And they came up with this new dance. They made these beautiful shawls, thus the name Fancy Shawl. And
one of my favorite memories, wow, there's so many. Just so many. I can't even pick one. Maybe when you guys brought whitetail singers over, or it's just an exciting powwow, and I love it very much. I don't have one special time of that powwow. They're all just good. They're all good. Just to name a few. And my dad and I started singing up here. We started singing Northern first. We started singing with the Shy singers. But there was a whole chunk that sang on that drum group that was the leader of the drum at the time. His name was George Garvin. So we started singing Ho Chunk then. We started singing Ho Chunk songs, which is similar to Southern style singing. But then we just switched it over to Ponca style singing, straight Southern singing. And just the way I'm dressed is the way you were supposed to dress on the Southern drum group when you're singing. You gotta come looking like you're supposed to be there, eh? As they say. And the Southern drum group here in Chicago have been coming here ever since they started letting us do these things again back in the early 70s. Eh? So my grandfather and them been coming up here ever since that time, you know, back in the early 70s.
You know, when I had talked to my dad has now passed, but when he was still alive, you know, and he used to, when I was younger, he would take us to different powwows, and so we traveled. And you know what we did, or how he did it, was he would even sing in the car, and he'd bang on the dashboard. So I mean, powwow songs are just songs have always been part of, you know. I couldn't even tell you, you know, if he listened to the radio or not, you know. And my brother, the same thing. Him and I, when we lived in Arizona, we traveled we'd go to Nevada and California for powwows. And he would do the same thing, you know, we'd load up the girls in the back, his girls, my girls. And he would do the same thing. He'd say, "Do you remember this song, Norma?" So I'd start singing and pounding on the dashboard. You know, and so going to powwows has always been a part of what we do. It's not everything, but it's a part of what we do. And that started, you know, with my dad. So I enjoy going to powwows, and I always liked the Indian Center powwow, you know, only because, well, since we were on committee, we got to sit at a table and, you know, hand out brochures, and I was on the AIC, American Indian Center board at one time also for a number of years. And so I got to see all facets of it, you know, not just being on the board, but also being part of the Miss Indian Chicago committee. At one year, I even got elected as chairperson for the powwow, and it's, you know, and I know it's a lot of work, you know, but you know, when you bring in other people from different communities, they all come to dance or they come to sing, you know, and that's their pride. And, you know, so that's kind of what staying within some of our culture keeps for us. So, you know, like I said, I just had a birthday not too long ago and I turned 70. So I've been doing this for a while, and you know, and I passed it on, and she's passed it on to her kids, her boys, and my granddaughters. We had them dancing. I've got 2 daughters, and so it's something that, you know, some people, they pass on songs or language or culture, and that was a combination of all of it. So, and that's what powwows have been for us, is a passing on, a feeling that you belong, helping you to learn to, if not get along, but at least you know how your community works. And
Okay, powwow means to me celebration and coming together as a community. It means laughter and joy and good food, and just being together and gathering together.
You know, it's always been a lot of fun. You know, it's always been a homecoming. You know, I'm also from, my mom is from Lakota in Wisconsin, so, you know, when I go back up home there, it's also a homecoming there. But definitely, you know, one memory that strikes me, or, you know, that always, that I always can think of is at Navy Pier, you know, going outside to catch some air. And I wasn't dancing at the time. I was just going to hang out and, you know, be the cool guy and check it out. And I remember going outside and you know, it's beautiful. You could just see the water right there, you know, and there's no railing and everything like that. And I can remember, you know, just kind of being outside and hearing, hey, and I was like, well, do I hear somebody? You know, and the people I was with, did we hear somebody? Hey, hey. And sure enough, you know, in the water was a dancer. You know, and in his full outfit. Somehow, you know, the fact that there was no railing, you know, kind of rang true right there. So that was one thing that I remember. You know, I felt bad for him. Everyone felt bad for him, and, you know, everyone helped him out. But, you know, only at Navy Pier in Chicago is something like that, I guess, going to happen.
Men's fancy feathered double bustle. This dance is also a more contemporary dance, been around about 70, 80 years. Also started down in the Oklahoma Indian Territories, Haskell Indian Junior College. It was the mid-20s. Gentlemen, they had a fancy feathered double bustle contest in the mid-20s, and that's where this dance started at. This is a lot of good dancing, a lot of fun. They really get jiggy with it.
My favorite thing about powwow is that I can see how my culture can dance, and like I could see how my culture is, and how I can learn like new dances and learn them from the people that I know.
Next, we got our women jingle dress, our women jingle dress dancers. This dance came about, as I understand it, was told to me by, came from the northern woodland area, mainly from the Anishinaabe people, and it's a medicine dress. And I heard one story about the young lady who was very, very ill, and no matter how hard the medicine man tried to heal her of her sickness, he couldn't do it. He could not do this. So she had a dream that if she made this dress with these cones on it that jingled and she danced, and she offered strawberries and tobacco and got out in the dance room and danced in this dress, and she would become well. So she did this. She made this dress with these cones on it, and she got out in the dance arena and danced, and she offered tobacco and strawberries, and she became well. So the Anishinaabe, they consider this a medicine dress, and they say that if 4 dresses got out and danced for anybody in your family that is ill, if they dance for this person, they will become well. And they really, really believe in this dress. It's considered a medicine dress. And the sound that dress makes when she dances in it, that shunk shunk sound, that's the sound that makes the medicine. And I really love this jingle dress. I love this jingle dress. I love it so much that when I die and I come back in my next life, I want to come back as a jingle.
For a long time, I'd always go to powwows with my family every year, the Navy Pier Powwow or the Odeon, I guess, or wherever that was. I remember going there, and you know, back those days, the most I danced at a powwow was breakdancing. You know, in my Puma suit. You know, with Kelly Logan and other people back in the day. But I always wanted to dance, always loved being around powwows. And, you know, my family would say, well, you'd make a good dancer, you know. You're thin, whatever, this, that. And, you know, in other words, I was skinny. So they always encouraged me to dance, but I had a single mom, and it was hard for her to get everything together for me. So when I hit my early 20s, I kind of made up my mind to try and get something together. And when I was 23, I kind of surprised my whole family by jumping out in the arena back in the Dusty Armory days. You know, I didn't notice they didn't clean up after the rodeo right before us, right? Just because I was out there dancing, and that's what all I cared about. You know, I wasn't good, I wasn't pretty, but I was there. You know, my cousin Bobby Bird Sr. teased me, "You're not supposed to. You're supposed to be tracking that deer, not chasing him." You know, but we all have to start somewhere, right? So there I was, dancing in what I had, and I was happy. So. You know, it's been a progression through the years, I guess.
So the AIC powwow had always been there. You know, I remember as a teenager when I did live here in Chicago, and I had went, and at that time they had it at the Chicago Armory on Chicago in Michigan, I believe it is, and that was one of the first powwows I had been to here in the city. And they had all, at that time we probably had more natives, because I remember the Choctaws, they did their own dance. They used to have, I think it was called a ribbon dance, and they would do that. They had some Apache people that lived here, and they did their crown dancing. And then, of course, the Ho-Chunk people, they did their, I think it was called a bean dance. But they used to, you know, a lot of the natives would do their individual tribal dances. So it was always, you know, always interesting. And that's kind of how I got into beadwork. I saw the beadwork, and I thought, like, since I was a teenager, I couldn't afford to buy it, but I learned how to make it. So today I make my own. I made a lot of her stuff that she used to wear. My other daughter made all her things, learned how to sew, so I made my grandsons their outfits, and my granddaughters, I made their outfits. And then it's, again, something you pass on. So she's learning how to do beadwork, I think she can use a sewing machine, but yeah. But that's kind of what powwows have always meant for me anyway. Yeah, and I like to sing if I know the song. My voice isn't as it used to be, but too much coffee, I think. But and I've got ladies that I sing with, so we all look at each other and say, "Do you know that song?" "Yeah, well, let's try it." And then we all run up there and sing with somebody, whatever drum it is. We always ask the women that came with this particular drum, "Is it okay if we sing with you?" And most of the time they always say yes. So, we voice in with them. And that's what powwows have always been for. I think a lot of the people that participated is you can join in. You can be part of it if you choose. That's up to you. It's not nothing forced on you. Doesn't mean that you're more or less native than anybody else. It just means it's like somebody that plays guitar. Some people can and like it and do it, and other people they just like to listen to it. So it doesn't matter what side you're on, as long as the whole point is that it's part of who and what we were and still are, and it's something you can pass on to next.
Grass dancers, calling all grass dancers. Peji Wachi. That's how you say grass dance in the Lakota language. Peji meaning grass, Wachi meaning dance. You know how you say cut the grass in French? You say mow the lawn. Anyway, this grass dance comes to us by way of the Omaha Indian people. Long time ago, they used to call them Omaha. Is what they came from around as what is now Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska, around that area. And seems that there was a young man, a story was told me, a young man who had a bad leg, and he couldn't dance the way the rest of the dancers were dancing. So while the rest of the people were dancing, he went out on the prairie, and he was sitting out there on this little hill on top of the prairie, and he was kind of feeling bad because he couldn't dance the way the rest of the people were dancing. So he was thinking, looking out on the prairie, thinking, watching the wind howl, listening to the wind howl, watching the wind blow the tall grass. And he looked at the tall grass the way the wind was blowing it, and he thought to himself, hey, I could dance like that. I could move like that. So he went on the prairie, and he pulled that tall grass out of the ground, and he stuck it in his clothing, and made it look really nice. And he took it back to the powwow. I guess I got no other word for powwow. But, well, I do got other words for it, but that's what we call it now. So he took his dance back to the people, and he started dancing that way. And wow, the Omaha people fell in love with it. They honored that song, and they called it a medicine song because they healed a young boy's heart. And they all adopted that dance. And they honored it so much that whenever the people would start a powwow or wachipi or a doings or a celebration, they would ask the grass dancers to come out first and clear the dance arena for the rest of the dancers. So that's how that dance got started. But then the Omaha people shared that grass dance from the Nebraska all the way up northwest. They even shared that dance with the Salish and the Blackfeet and the Crow and they shared that dance with all the people up that way.
And at the time, we were the only drum around. And when there were powwows, we'd invite drums from the neighboring community in Wisconsin. So that was really sad. And we felt there was a need in the community, obviously, but we felt that we could potentially fill that void. But you're talking about men who've been at the drum for years. I mean, we have a singer from Chi-Town, we have a singer from a group called Shkiba Madzi, which is a drum group that was led by R.J. Smith. We have members from a southern drum group called Cricket Hill. So we did have, we had seasoned singers, but those singers never had a leadership capacity within the drum group, meaning nobody was a headman, nobody was a lead singer. So we had to learn all that on our own. And so I guess we are students, we are still students, we're still learning a lot. But over the years, so since 2012, we're 8 years old, and we still have a lot to learn. We still make a lot of mistakes, but I think that's good. I think it's there's this expression we have in Indian country about the drum and the singers and the songs, and when the singers sing those songs, it's from the heart. So it doesn't have to be perfect, because your that expressionism that you're giving to your community is always from the heart. We do our best, and we practice hard, we sing hard. And if we make mistakes, it's not on purpose, because we're singing from the heart.
I have been dancing for most of all my life, and I think, being a powwow dancer, even though it's a contemporary dance, the whole thing about it is, again, just a sense of pride. As a young girl, you're learning, and when you do get into competition, then you're trying to be the best that you can. So you have that sense of pride of, going to a powwow and competing against other girls. And again, in the style that I danced, I was fancy shawl all my life. It was always a popular style. So there was always anywhere from 10 to 50 dancers that you would be competing against. And then in various ages within the age range. When we came to Chicago and being a part of the community and being on these various committees, the powwows that the center has had and the locations that they've had, it's always been a prideful time, because, as it was mentioned, anybody who travels for powwows travels for a reason. One, because they want to dance. Two, because they want to hear the drums. There's some drums that you will favor over time. And so just to be able to listen to them, you want to be there. It's like going to a music concert. You go to see a band for a reason, because you like the music. And again, you know what music does to you. It gives you a good feeling. And then dancing, you're putting motion and feeling into it. But also the locations, I've been to several of the center powwows in several different locations. And I want to say, I guess my most fondest was being able to dance at Navy Pier. I've been at Navy Pier at several different times when the powwows were there. There was a time when Navy Pier wasn't as it is now. It was a long parking lot that you had to walk to get to a ballroom that was on the end. And doing it at the beginning of the powwow was fine. Doing that walk at the end of the powwow was a drag. And then let alone it's on the pier. So it was always cold, it was always windy, and heaven forbid if there was rain or snow. But when you were inside, being inside that ballroom, it's such a beautiful space. And then to have the opportunity to dance. Allowing all the vendors to be above and watching below and watching us. And having the stage for the MC to be on and some of the drums to be on. That was probably one of my favorite times was to be there and to be able to be in that space and to gather with various friends that we've had over the years that live in different places, suburbs, different cities and states. You know, everybody travels to get to powwows. And so when it was time to have it in Chicago, it was a great time because I didn't have to travel. I just had to put in a lot of legwork and labor to help set up and make sure everything was ready for all our guests. Other powwows that I've been to, again at the Armory, small local ones at the building on Wilson, and then also at the Bussy Woods and UIC Pavilion. And, you know, like I said, the Navy Pier powwow was my favorite just because of the space. It's very elegant, and it's just a space that we're not used to. You know, usually we're in a gymnasium. Sometimes we're out in, you know, on the sidewalk in the grass somewhere. At the UIC Pavilion, that also was a nice big space. It was just a little bit hard on the feet because it was concrete, so that would be a little bit tiring. And then Bussy Woods. I enjoyed Bussy Woods because we were able to be out in the open, and especially if it was the warmer weather, it was beautiful nights to sit outside, and then we were also able to camp. So I used to take advantage of that and camp out there for the weekend, and then I didn't have to drive into the city. And then I was able to stay out there, let my kids run around, and just be out in nature. And that was always fun for families that did camp. And we did. We all hung out afterwards, and the kids went and played out in the grass looking for fireflies or trying not to scare a skunk away. But we were able to, again, gather. And that's what a lot of this was about. It was allowing us to come together and to gather and to be able to socialize with various friends from areas, whether they were local or not. And that was the biggest opportunities that these powwows have put together for people.
Women traditional dancers are the very, very most important part of our culture. All of our tradition revolves around our women traditional, be they dancers or not. And I might be a bit prejudiced, but I believe our women traditional women are the most beautiful women in the world. They teach our babies from day one how to grow up in the real traditional way. They know all the medicines, they know all the truths, they know how to set a man straight. You know, you heard about women's rights? Well, they got a mean left too. So,
Drum culture is, it's similar. The ideology is similar. The methodology is where you find the differences. And it's about size of the drum. It's about I guess the distinction between Northern and Southern. Northern has a higher pitched singing. I don't know the lingo in that effort, but it's a higher pitched, and Southern has more of a baritone, I guess towards baritone. So the singing is different. The drum beat is different, where that Northern style offers a lot of honor beats. Southern drum, traditionally the honor beats come right in the middle of a verse, all the time. Northern, they do it at the beginning, they do it at the second part of the verse in the song. So, but the leads, you have a lead singer, and then you have a second lead, which the rest of the singers come in. When it comes to Northern and Southern drums, as far as like responsibilities, the roles of singers, the roles of the men, women singers, it does differentiate there. But because in Southern drums, you got a headman, you have a drum keeper, which are similarities. But the difference is, it's interesting because I know, like, I've seen Northern drum groups kind of pass their drum to have different drum keepers. With Southern drums, or at least with Redline, we just have one main drum keeper, one main headman. It doesn't really change unless somebody moves away. But overall, the women have a vital role in this whole process, and it's something that gives me relief and not so much stress, is that the women are the song keepers. They're the ones that are knowledgeable about the song. They're the people, they're the folks who know the songs from beginning to end, so that if we make mistakes, they have carte blanche on how they want to either approach us, whether they want to punish us, or whether they want to use it as a learning, a teaching experience. But it's a good time. Whatever way they want to go and how they want to teach us is really interesting, because it is all learning. It's a teaching moment, and it's for us men to get on track to kind of get that slap in the face where yeah, that's right, I forgot, thank you. Predominantly, I think it's the singing. It's the pitch, the singing, and the drum beat that makes it a distinction between Northern and Southern.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't a powwow person. I grew up around it, but I wasn't a powwow person. It wasn't until I hit my 20s, teenager years, then I went to the service. When I went to the service, I came back home, and they had a ceremony for us. I was given a feather and was allowed to lead a grand entry, which I had never done before. I didn't know a grand entry from a grand duchess or something. I like the camaraderie, did I just make up a word? Camaraderie, whatever it was, of being around people that look like me. And I'm just putting shadows here to make this thing come to life a little bit.
Men's traditional. This dance has been going on a long, long time. A long, long time before old Uncle Christopher ever discovered us. This dance was happening right here on this continent, in the Americas. In the Indian way, Indian man, it was not okay to brag about yourself. It wasn't okay to be looking out for yourself, to always be boasting about yourself, always got an ego. In the Indian way, it was, you were supposed to be traditional and humble and take care of everybody equally. And that's how you showed your strength. It was not okay to show off, except in this dance arena that we're dancing in virtually today. It was okay to dance in this dance arena. This dance arena belonged to the warriors, it belonged to the men. And after you would come back from a war party or a hunting party or a raiding party, or if you watch R.J. Smith out here dancing, you'll see what kind of party he was at last night. Just kidding, R.J. But hey, and but in this dance arena that we dance in, that's when the American Indian male, the warrior, Kichida, that's when it was okay for him to come out and really brag. Hitcha, really brag and dance about who he was, what he did out on that war hunting party or that war party, or just going out and hunting moose, hunting elk, hunting deer, or even going out and picking berries with the family. And that was okay to get out in that dance arena and really brag about what he did. That's the only time it was okay to brag.
I've served the American Indian Center Powwow in many different capacities, starting as head dancer and then being a head judge, arena director, MC. So I've managed to do a lot of different roles, and they've always been really helpful in aiding my learning. You know, my community took notice. When you know, all these young dancers, whenever there's another dancer that comes up, the older ones, you know, they take notice and they want to help them along and they want to encourage them. So that's what happened to me here. You know, I'm Ojibwe and Assiniboine, but a lot of my teachers and a lot of my aunts and uncles aren't, you know, they're from all these different flags that in this, you know, in the Indian Center here, and they all help me along. So, you know, I hope to kind of honor them as well, you know, and all of their teachings. You know, I learned in an intertribal community, and so I know what it is to tread lightly around others, but to also be respectful and know that we can all get along and we do this together. But I remember coming to a powwow at the old Indian Center, right, on Wilson, and walking in the doors, and my uncle was singing at the time at one of the drums, and I had never really sat at a drum, and he stood up and he spotted me right when I walked in that door. I thought I was coming in cool, you know, a little late, didn't have my outfit or nothing. I just wanted to check out the powwow, and George Garvin, man, the Iceman, stood up, looked right at me, pointed at me, and just said, "Come here," and pointed to a seat at that drum, you know, and that was one of the first people to really encourage me in a good way, you know. And he's Ho-Chunk, you know. He's not from where I'm from, but he has respect for my family, you know, and liked the fact that I was dancing and starting to dance, so he wanted to encourage me. He knew that my dad wasn't around, and you know, and there were others that did help me along in that way, so I was really thankful for that.
Powwows are great for the American Indian, great for their attitude, great for their wealth, I mean their happiness and health, their individual health. It just helps us out so much, just to know we belong. We belong to a culture that is, I think, second to none. It should be held up there with Catholicism, and you know, it's a worldview only known by natives that should be is just the wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, if you've never been to a powwow, I say go ahead and go, man. It's wonderful. It's everyone's welcome. Everyone's accepted. Everyone gets a blessing and some good food, and you know, you might walk away with a cake out of a cakewalk or some cash from a 50-50, but you're going to walk away with an experience, with a wonderful experience and a blessing. But no matter where you're at, attend a Native American ceremony or gathering or festival, and just check out how the indigenous people do it. You know, they're not all powwows. Like for my culture, we dance in a plaza, and we have days when the whole world is invited, and everyone gets to be blessed by the dancers and the music and the food, and all the homes are open and stuff like that, and that's just a different type of celebration. Northwest natives have something totally different, and people down in Florida have different ceremonies and stuff. So no matter where you're at, no matter what it's called, go check it out. You know, and generically you can say just go to a powwow and powwow. Have fun.
Oh,